Right. Hello, ladies. Welcome in. Welcome in. Tonight, we are going to be chatting about the three things that are costing you your healing right now. Before I get into it, I am going to introduce myself. It is like 1,000 degrees in here right now. So I have the fan literally blowing in my face so that I don't have a meltdown. And as you can tell, the blonde hair is gone. I had a lot of folks asking about my hair today on socials, on Instagram, on TikTok, DMs. And yes, this is my natural hair. Okay, this is my natural hair. I do like to protect it and wear it in different styles. So you see like the braids, you see the crochet. If you are interested in like my hair routine, let me know in the comments and I'll do a separate video on how I take care of my hair. Um, I do have a blog on my website. My website is linked in my bio, and in there you'll find my my hot hair oil routine. So that's something that I do on myself and I do on my daughter. And I did it immediately after I took my braids out, my blonde braids that ended up dreading. So everyone's asking if I had dreads. They were not dreads. They were actually goddess braids that ended up dreading. But yeah, if you're interested in my hair tutorial, my hair routine, let me know. I do love to take care of my hair, my daughter's hair. I've always loved hair. So um yeah, back to the topic. The three things that are keeping you from your healing, okay? And if you don't know who I am, my name is Fantanish Atamsa. I am a trauma-informed holistic wellness practitioner. So I work a lot around the body. So trauma that's held in the body, traumatic experiences that people feel like they've gotten over on a mental level, but on a somatic level, your body's still holding on to it. I am a registered massage therapist. I'm also a certified Reiki practitioner, certified comedic yoga teacher, certified doula. So I do work a lot around body and somatics and trauma, like what is held in the body, right? Many people come to me with chronic headaches, chronic jaw pain, jaw clenching, and they just feel like it's a physical thing. And when we get into it, when I get into it, particularly with ladies, I treat mostly ladies. We dive right into the childhood stuff, the relationship stuff, and then we process how that's manifesting in the physical body. So I help women heal that trauma and move past it so that you can live a life of joy and pleasure. Get out of survival mode, get out of autopilot, and really reclaim your life. So, if this sounds like you, if you feel like you're stressed out, burnt out, and you're learning to rebuild self trust after trauma, whether it's childhood trauma or relationship trauma, maybe you're a single mom, you've come out of divorce or come out of a toxic relationship, or you experienced anything, any sort of PTSD, like I can help you through this. So send me a message, join our sanctuary. Actually, that's where you're going to find the best support. We have an online healing community for women where um actually supported over 1,000 women in my 10 years of practice. And this sanctuary is really where we go through the three top things that women, I believe, truly do need to heal. And so this is nervous system re-regulating. So how do we create those new neural pathways and create safety within new conditions, because our nervous system has been so used to pain, so used to trauma. So even though we might not be in a traumatic situation now, we're still operating like we are. So we are still self-sabotaging, we're still self-abandoning, we're still, overdoing or feeling unworthy, carrying a lot of shame. So we do that nervous system re-regulating to feel safe and to change the narrative around ourselves, our stories, our circumstances, right? So we do a lot of that training inside the sanctuary. We also do somatic healing. So how do we process the trauma through the body? What are the techniques, the massages, the energy healing, the detoxing, the cleansing? How do we move that old waste, like physical waste, right, from your body, that inflammation out of your body, that weight out of your body, that trauma that's being held onto, that retention? How do we get that stuff out of the body and restore and renew our body? So we do that somatic healing, the nervous system regulating, and then of course the divine feminine energy exploration and mastery, to be frank. So we go really into um, who are we? Like what is our divine birthright? And when we really understand who we are as women, um, as divine counterparts to the divine masculine, no less, right? When you know who you are, you walk differently, right? You release so much shame. You become empowered when it comes to your body, to your sensuality, to your sexuality. You stop self-abandoning and you begin putting yourself on your rightful pedestal, right? Not in a cocky, arrogant way, but in just in the way that you it was always rightfully yours, right? We go into how to reconnect with our feminine energy, with our divinity. And particularly this month, August, we're doing a whole month for our Lotus Bloom themes where we are learning about divine feminine principles. So it's really a beautiful time in the sanctuary. And I'll tell you a bit about my story if you don't know. Before we get into this, I'm going to go really quick. Okay. So really early on experienced really complex trauma. I was SA'd at a very young age for multiple years, and it changed the dynamics of my family. It changed my self identity. It just changed everything in my world. And so I grew up, not being able to trust anybody, really ashamed of my body, and just navigating all the complexities of, just yeah, sex, sensuality, like my body, how I show up around men, how I show up around women, how I show up in the world in general. So it completely dysregulated me. Of course I didn't trust a single soul. So that led to me becoming a high performer. I was like, I got to do everything myself, right? So I stopped trusting people. I didn't have I couldn't be vulnerable, right? That wasn't safe for me. And then I carried these patterns on throughout my life. I became a mom for the first time at 19 years old, became a single mom, and then later on got into another relationship, got pregnant again with twins. That relationship didn't work out, so became a single mom again. Um, and I kept repeating these patterns, and it wasn't until like one day, right? I had built, a beautiful business, built like a beautiful life, and then everything just came crashing down around me. And I was like, why is this happening? Like, what am I not dealing with? What is the truth that I'm not facing, that I keep burying, that has led to my whole life kind of falling apart when I had everything together, right? And it forced me to really take a look and really become honest with myself. And at this point I had my college education, health sciences. I was practicing health sciences at that point for a few years as a registered massage therapist. But then I went deeper into ancient healing and ancient wisdom. And so it was really when I started integrating the two, so that ancient wisdom with the modern science, and really seeing how African cultures heal, right? I'm originally from Ethiopia and I studied like ancient Kush and ancient Nubia, ancient Kemet, and understood how they heal, and how everything is integrated. The community, the women, how we eat, how we live, nature, and particularly our role as the feminine. And that was the missing piece. Like that's something that we don't really talk about in modern science. But when you look at nature, when you look at the world and all the systems, there's so much feminine influence in everything. So how can we talk about, science and spirituality and religion without honoring the feminine? And when I put that piece back in, everything started to click. And so that's what I teach my women too, is how to be empowered in your divine feminine. Okay. So, three things, okay, that is keeping you from your healing right now. And if you're experiencing this, no shame, right? This is something that I've had to work through and I still work through all the time. It's something that I help my women through, and women who come and see me. This is like the number one thing that they deal with. That's a pattern. So the three things that are keeping you from healing right now is number one, shame. Okay. Shame is that voice in your head that says, like, you are not enough. Shame is going to dysregulate you and keep you out of your body, right? Shame is that voice, like, every time I look in the mirror, I don't like what I see, right? Why can't my boobs look like this? Why can't my body look like this? Why do I have extra fat, extra jiggle here? Why do I keep repeating the same cycles, right? I should be further in life than I am right now. Why do I keep putting up with the same BS from this person or this partner? Or why can't I, you know, e excel past this certain, income threshold or this certain goal that I have, right? You have this sense of like, I failed and you should have known better. And shame loves to do this. It loves to keep us small, and it keeps us hidden, and it keeps us disconnected from ourselves and others. And shame is learned. It's a learned feeling. It's a learned we normalize it from early on. And one thing about the nervous system, it doesn't necessarily give us what is good and positive, it gives us what's familiar. So if we are constantly used to hearing that we are not enough, we are unworthy, we don't look the part, whatever the case is, if you're used to hearing it, particularly from a young age, maybe you heard this in your household, maybe you heard this in media, like growing up in the 90s, thin was in, right? So from an early age, women, young girls were conditioned to feel like, we had to be thin or we had to look a certain way. Right? If you were the outliers, then you had a lot of shame around that, right? Being a single mom, there's a lot of shame that society puts on us for that. Being a young mom, there's a lot of shame that society puts on us for that, right? If you're not married and have a house or all these things by a certain age, these are all things that replay in our head over and over. And shame likes to keep receipts, right? Shame is like one of those things that you can look around your life and you're like constantly reminded. It's like, why am I living in a two-bedroom apartment when I should be living in a four-bedroom house at 35, right? Why does my body still hold on to this weight that I see physically, and why can't I let go of it? Right? Shame is like one of the worst things that keeps women so dysregulated and keeps us from healing. Because if you're stuck in a cycle where it's not just like I did something wrong, but I am wrong, right? When you feel like you're unsafe to be seen, you automatically begin to hide your needs, right? You hide what your true feelings are. You hide what your truth is. You become like a people pleaser. You're always performing, like you're self-abandoning, you overfunction, right? And you numb out. So rather than avoid that like painful feeling of not being enough, you rather just numb out, right? And so this is a self protection mechanism. However, it leads to disconnection. And that's the second thing I want to talk to you guys about. Disconnection is the second thing that is going to keep us from our healing, the second top thing that's going to keep us from our healing. Um, and when you're disconnected, you're just going through the motions. You're on autopilot. So you you miss a lot of opportunities for presence, right? So it's like there's a birthday party or there's an anniversary or there's a vacation, but you don't feel anything. You're there, but you're not really there, right? You're going through the motions without actually living. And you abandon yourself so many times that you don't even recognize your own voice anymore, right? Your voice, which is actually the voice of the divine, which is actually the voice of God, the creator that you have inside, but you are just so used to hearing the voices of other people, whether it's the shame that you've now embodied and taken on so that nobody even needs to be around you saying, talking negatively about you because you do such a good job of it yourself now. Um, you just, you are so, those voices are so much louder that you can't even recognize what your own voice is saying anymore. Right. So these things are all connected. Shame and disconnection, and the third one, they're all connected. And disconnection is really, sorry, let me pull my notes up. You lose your internal signals. So whatever your intuition is telling you, whatever your needs and desires, like whenever they come up, you ignore it. And this is also a trauma response. I talked about it in my other video around how over functioning or overperforming is a trauma response. Doing everything yourself is a trauma response. But when you lose your internal signals, when you can't even recognize, like, I'm I'm hurting, right? Or I'm numb right now, or I'm hungry even, I'm tired, when you can't even listen to that, when you can't even say, like, "This is a boundary for me," because you don't even know what your boundaries are because people have crossed that for you so many times, whether it's, people that you trusted in childhood or a romantic relationship or even friends or colleagues, whatever. Like, when you've had your boundary crossed so many times, you begin to not even know what your boundaries are, right? You self-abandon, right? And so you miss those early cues of like tension, fatigue, right? You override your hunger cues and then you wait until it's like a 10 out of 10 before you respond, right? So your nervous system, your whole body stays in a fight or flight position because it doesn't even have an opportunity to feel safe because it doesn't even trust you at this point. So it's like, I'm hungry, but I'm not eating. So I have to stay vigilant, right? I got to stay ready to attack or ready to respond or ready to fight back. And so what happens when we're in fight or flight, in a chronically in a fight or flight state? We start to see those symptoms physically, right? We like our health starts to go downhill, starts to decline. We get inflammation, we get high cortisol levels, we get chronic conditions like diabetes, high blood pressure. We start getting chronic pain in our body, even autoimmune diseases, right? Where your immune system literally begins to break down and attack you, right? These are all symptoms of chronic stress and chronic burnout, right? And then what else happens? You start to overthink, you begin to create a lot of shame with yourself, and then you start repeating the same cycles over and over, right? You don't have any safety in your body, and then this is literally going to create physical health problems for you. Okay. Your body's working overtime without any safety, without any rest, and without any support. So you're not going to be able to lose the weight that you've been holding on to. You're not going to be able to reduce that chronic pain, that chronic tension. You're not going to be able to have a peaceful mind and calm emotions because you're vigilant all the time, right? And then so when we're disconnected, right? Shame is the first thing that's going to keep us from our healing. Disconnection is the second thing that's going to keep us from our healing, and the third thing is dysregulation. Okay, so dysregulation actually reinforces the shame. So this is a cycle, right? So when you're dysregulated, we're more likely to do what? We're more likely to have emotional outbursts at people that we love, right? Like maybe our kids or our partner or whatever the case is. So we snap, we shut down, we spiral, we overreact, right? And then we begin to make decisions out of panic. And then again, we abandon our needs. And then so that creates shame in us. When we're dysregulated, there is so much chaos that's happening around us. And it goes back to the disconnection again. We're in survival mode, right? So when there's so much chaos, like what do? You just go into autopilot, right? And then again, you abandon your own needs to to do whatever is needed to just get through the day, right? Dysregulation is one of those things that like your nervous system again it keeps its only job is to keep us safe. So when you are used to um this is where self-sabotage shows up. When you're used to things not working out for you, or when you're used to like not being safe, when you're used to people turning their backs on you, when you're used to betrayal, right? Like from family or partners or whatever the case is, when you're used to like violence or yelling or not feeling safe, when you're used to people crossing your boundaries over and over, this all becomes normal to you, okay? So when things are showing up in your life, I want you to listen to this. When things are showing up in your life that are not that, like when, for example, a person shows up in your life, romantic interest that shows up, and they're actually calm and they're actually stable and secure, right? Your nervous system is going to be like, I don't recognize this. And you're going to look for every little thing you can to create a problem within that romantic relationship. Okay. And then before you know it, you're probably going to be the leaver, right? You're going to leave first so that they don't get you and put you in that vulnerable situation again. And that's a form of self-abandonment, right? Or you cannot you have all these goals, beautiful goals, as you should, right? As a divine feminine, you should be thinking about expansion and higher income and like perfect health and a beautiful home and a beautiful living situation. You should absolutely want all these things. But when you come from like poverty or like, just making ends meet all the time, that's what's comfortable for you. So when you start getting closer to reaching your goals, people think like you're going to feel safe and you're going to feel comfortable and everything's just going to work out for you. That's not even the case. When you're someone who's dysregulated and you get closer to reaching your goals, you're going to self sabotage, right? That's going to throw you into a frenzy because you've never been there before. So your capacity to receive is very, very small. Right? It's only around what you're used to. So we have to learn how to retrain and re-regulate our nervous system to help us increase that capacity to receive, right? It is safe for me to have this amount of money in my bank account. It is safe for me to have a safe, loving, trusting relationship. It is safe for me to have a beautiful home and to look this beautiful and to have great health, right? These are all things that we have to retrain our nervous system to feel safe in and feel safe with all of them at once. Because sometimes when you have too many good things happening at once, it feels too much when you're not used to that. And then you will begin to self sabotage. And, babes, I don't want you to do that anymore. I want you to have all the things that you want. And this is important for you, right? Because I know you feel guilty. I know you carry a lot of shame right now because you're having emotional outbursts at people and you don't know what's going on, right? You don't know if it's a hormonal thing or if it's a nervous system thing or like if it's a trauma thing. You are just so overwhelmed. You're outbursting at people you love and you're carrying a lot of shame around that, right? You're carrying a lot of shame around being disconnected, around not being present around your kids or your loved ones or your friends, right? You can't even show up for things that are important because you feel you feel too overwhelmed or you're there and you're not really there, right? So you're missing out on those moments regardless if you're there or not. And I know that you don't like that feeling of being disconnected, right? You have to take pictures and videos to remind yourself that you were there, right? I've been there. And that's why I talk about this so easily. These are all symptoms of trauma, of PTSD, but I promise you don't have to live there anymore, right? And then your health. Like, I know that you're probably carrying maybe like a dish extra weight on you that you just cannot seem to lose. There's a lot of fluid retention. There's maybe like illness, chronic illness that's manifesting right now as maybe, tight shoulders that you're ignoring or tight hips that you're ignoring. But that is going to eventually grow into something more serious, or maybe you do have something serious right now. Why do women have the highest rates of autoimmune disease? Because it's repressed emotions, repressed anger, right? Repressed sadness because you're disconnected, because you're on autopilot, and because you're just in survival mode. So you're self abandoning. You're not even feeling what your body needs anymore. That's why you're getting all these autoimmune conditions. That's why women have the highest cases of disease because it's repressed anger, repressed resentment, repressed trauma. And I don't want you to live like that anymore. Okay. And I know that it's hard because you just feel like you can't not only trust anybody around you, right? That's why you're such a high achiever, that's why you're such a high performer. But when you've experienced any sort of trauma or loss or grief, you begin to lose trust in yourself. And that is like one of the hardest things to rebuild. And if you cannot trust yourself, you're not going to be able to trust anybody else. And so, with that reconnection with the divine feminine, understanding who you are, rebuilding your womb wisdom, rebuilding your intuition, right? Reopening up your third eye chakra, reopening up your sacral chakra, reconnecting with the divine feminine principles like Ma'at and Het Haru and Newt, right? Ma'at, who is relationships and trust, right? And pure, innocent love, which you might have not felt for a long time or ever before, but that divine principle is there for you, right? Or Het Haru, which is my favorite, which is what I base a lot of my teachings on, which is creativity, sensuality, sexuality, pleasure, beauty, right? That's your power as women to show up beautiful, to embrace your sensuality, embrace your sexuality, right? Without the shame, letting go of that shame, healing those trauma blocks around your body, releasing that shame around your body, right? And then, of course, Newt, who is another beautiful one that I often go back to, who is that nurturing celestial mother. She's the mother of the night sky, but she's also nurturing. She covers you. So if you felt like you didn't have that protection of a mother in your life, or you don't have a close relationship with your mother, or maybe not like a nurturing one, right? Mother Newt is there. Those divine principles are there. And all of these things are not external. They're all part of you and you all have access to it. And this is going to bring you the most joy and healing, right? When you connect with the divine feminine. Number one, when you regulate your nervous system. Number two, and then when we heal the trauma out of the body once and for all, the somatic healing, okay? That's the healing trifecta. And again, the three things that are keeping you the most, um, the three things that are holding you back the most from your healing right now are shame, dysregulation, and disconnection. And we work through all that and we heal all that through that trifecta of somatic healing, nervous system regulation, and divine feminine energy. So if you would like to know more about how to heal, how to feel safe in your body, rebuild self trust, you can take our 5 days to feel safe in your body challenge, completely free. Okay, I'll link it in the description. You can explore our Divine Feminine Energy program completely free for 7 days. You can join in and watch the videos, do the exercises, or you can go into the foundational healing, learn more about your body, learn more about emotional body mapping, right? Where's the trauma showing up? Why do I have chronic head pain? Why do I have chronic jaw pain? Why do I have chronic foot pain? Feet inflammation, right? And then map that out and learn how to heal that, right? If you're looking to cleanse and detox, maybe you were on a bender, right? Haven't been eating well, um, haven't been, just treating your body like well at all. You've been treating it like a trash can. You want to learn how to lower your cortisol levels, learn how to detox, learn how to rebalance all your chakras, learn amazing recipes for juicing, right? Like beauty elixirs to get glowing skin, how to like special juice blends to help support your blood health, your circulatory health, special juice blends to help clear your skin, promote digestion, all of these things while also rebalancing your energy centers. You're going to love our 28-day chakra cleanse and detox, which we do as a group twice a year, but you have access to it again inside the sanctuary. You can do it anytime, as many times as you want, or you can join us when we do our group cleanses twice a year. So I'll definitely share with you guys when the next one is. But yeah, I will link all those in the description. And if this video has been helpful to you at all, please let me know in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe and share this with a friend and join the sanctuary. That's where all the fun happens. That's where I talk about stuff that I can't necessarily talk about on here, but you get access to all that in depth ancient wisdom, all that in depth trauma informed care and information, and blending it with the modern science, particularly for the modern woman who's feeling stressed and burnt out, and how to make this all apply to your life. So, I don't I don't want you to feel stressed, dysregulated. I was there, right? And now I'm a calm mom who is embodied in her divine feminine, and there's been a complete change in my life, truly. And I love this because I'm able to empower the women that I work with to experience the same thing. You're not your trauma. You don't have to live there anymore. So come inside the sanctuary, baby girl. I got you. And we will talk soon. All right, love. Ciao.